Ruth Bader Ginsburg came to the Supreme Court not just as another federal judge. She reflected women's emergence as fully equal members of American society in the late 20th century.
She became kind of a progressive and liberal icon, a cultural figure. So her departure represents not just a loss for liberals, but kind of a deep psychological blow for them as well.
As a young woman, she witnessed the McCarthy hearings in the United States and the electrocution of the Rosenbergs, and she viewed those days as very dark and very bad for democracy, and has said that she decided to become a lawyer in part because she saw lawyers standing up for people who were being targeted by the government.
In those ancient days, I went to Cornell University. There were 4 men to every woman. So for parents of girls, it was the ideal place. Because if you couldn't find a man at Cornell, you were hopeless.
She was a woman who scaled heights in the legal world before women tended to do those sorts of things.
She herself litigated a series of sex discrimination cases in the early 1970s and persuaded this all-male court to really change the way the law looked at women.
Women today face discrimination in employment as pervasive and more subtle than discrimination encountered by minority groups. This absolute exclusion, based on gender per se, operates to the disadvantage of female workers, their surviving spouses, and their children. Constitutional safeguard is guaranteed to all, and it may be relied upon by every person.
When she herself joined the Supreme Court, she brought that spirit, that idea that the law has to grow to recognize the way that society itself is growing, became a hallmark of her jurisprudence.
I have had the great good fortune to share life with a partner, a man who believed at age 18, when we met, that a woman's work, whether at home or on the job, is as important as a man's.
Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg took the judicial oath this past Friday.
Probably the case that she is proudest of came early in her tenure, in 1996, where she wrote the majority opinion that required the Virginia Military Institute to admit women.
The question is whether Virginia can constitutionally deny to women who have the will and capacity the training and attendant opportunities VMI uniquely affords.
10 years later, or so, she wrote a dissent in a 5-4 case called Ledbetter versus Goodyear Tire.
My name is Lily Ledbetter. It is an honor to be here today to talk about my experience trying to enforce my right to equal pay for equal work. I wish my story had a happy ending, but it doesn't.
The 5-member majority threw out Lily Ledbetter's claim. Justice Ginsburg said the majority got it wrong.
Tagline of my opinion was, the ball is now in Congress's court to correct the error into which my colleagues have fallen. We got the Lily Ledbetter Fair Pay Act.
It's a victory for women's groups and a milestone for the new Obama administration. The president picked the Lily Ledbetter Fair Pay Act as the first piece of legislation he signed since taking office.
She became, at the end of her career, a kind of icon for young women in particular. As one law student made a meme borrowing that of the late rapper Notorious B.I.G. She became framed as the notorious R.B.G.
I think I should explain what I have in common with the Notorious B.I.G. There's something quite important. We were both born and bred in Brooklyn, New York.
She was someone who made a great effort to appear and talk to students and young people and many, many audiences.
She was seen as the linchpin of the liberal bloc in the Supreme Court at a time when that bloc was shrinking and under pressure. Not just another liberal vote, but the leader of that bloc.
Some justices don't leave much of an imprint through their writing. Others we continue to discuss centuries after their passing. Obviously, we can't say today what her fate will be, but if people are still talking about the notorious R.B.G. a century from now, I wouldn't be surprised.